So this is the other entrance to Don's garden, and this is my favorite way to enter the garden. And I would like Don to tell us about these 6, 7
pieces of glass.
Pieces of glass, because they're gorgeous.
Of slag glass.
Pieces of slag glass.
Slag glass being glass that is not rolled when it's cooling. It's when it's molten, it's poured out on a metal table, and then gravity allows it to flow. And what you end up having is a glass that is higher in the middle and gently curves to flat on the sides with a flat bottom. That's what these are.
They're beautiful.
Now these particular pieces of glass have an interesting story to them. And I did this piece for my entryway here. The entryway actually resembles somewhat of a torii or a Japanese gate. And it's got some other pieces that aren't there yet that I'm working on. One that's going to be up above. It's a written in script air conditioning on 1/4-inch plate glass. Now, one of the things we had to do is add air conditioning to the studio, which we have the condenser over here. And I like messing with little kids' minds when they come over, you know, because it puts them at ease, especially when they're going in. I'm going to put some conduit here and a little rheostat, and tell them that I'm the only air-conditioned garden in Wisconsin. So it should work well. Getting back to the glass, that glass is the last glass that came out of Normandy, France in 1940 before the Nazis bombed Normandy, France, and took over France.
Oh my God. Can I touch it?
Sure.
How'd you get your hands on it?
Well, the glass when it came out, that family were members of our church, and they donated it to the church, and it was used in a chapel in our cemetery. When we got a new pastor, the pastor didn't like the chapel, so he had it taken down. And a friend of mine, who I got all kinds of old antique church window and various other old glasses from, I acquired it from him.
Okay.
So he's one of those people who is a hoarder, but he hoards great stuff. I mean,
obviously.
Cuckoo clocks.
Can we
from
go
all over
visit
the world.
next time?
He would be an interesting person to go visit.
Oh, we gotta go
sure.
visit next time.
But his house is in Johnsburg, Illinois, and
where is that?
right by Spring Grove,
okay.
and McHenry, and that area. And it was built in the Civil War, so when he moved in, it was still gas lighting and stuff.
Oh,
so yeah,
wow.
if you go down in his basement, it's like different little rooms,
Uh-huh.
and most of them are short because everybody was short, so you got to kind of duck and whatever. But he ended up selling me his whole basement room, which was about a 12 by 12, 6 van loads of glass. He sold me the whole thing. He had donated some pieces when I did a full display garden at the Flower and Garden Show in Chicago. And I asked him if he would, would you sell me a couple pieces? He looked at me and in my eyes and said, no, I'll sell you all of it, but you got to take all of it. So I got I got plate glass, I got clear glass, but I could reuse all those things.
Yeah.
So it was 6 van loads of glass for an unbelievably
cheap.
I won't even mention the price; it'll make you sick.
Bargain hunter here.
That's me. But so anyway, this is just one of those. That air conditioning thing is another one that was hand painted. So that one, I've got the frame on it. I've got to put the hooks on it. So
it'll be cute.
Yeah, this one's clad in copper, so it'll get dark for about 10 years, and then it'll turn green. And then I did this entryway so I can put some small side panels if I wanted.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
But it's just a wonderful way to enter it, and it gives me areas to climb up. I have scarlet runner beans that are climbing up there on both sides this year.
Cool. Here we go. Let's come into Don's garden.
Welcome. I grow a lot of things in a small area. Just loads. Total species in the garden right now at my last informal count was 145, and that's just inside the wire or the fence. And what I have is I use a French intensive technique, which has very narrow beds. So, you know, most of your gardeners make big long furrows and whatever. I make horizontal furrows or groups. And all those, part of the French intensive method is you initially rototill the area, and then you fill it with 4 to 6 inches of calf barn compost, where calf barn compost is basically the decomposition of calf manure. And because calves don't eat any grasses or anything, there's no weed seeds in it. So we're not bringing weed seeds to it.
That's great.
Now, it keeps the ground moist. It feeds things slowly. It helps soil life. It basically, it just has tons of advantages from disturbing the soil all the time. So it's like doing no-till farming. And eventually here it's kind of gone down. So sometime within the next year or two, I'll add another 6 inches of compost on there.
Okay.
And then, you know, we're good for another 3 or 4 years.
Cool.
Now, everything in the outer bed along the fence, I've got 3-foot wide beds that run all the way there. One of the things I like to do is include ornamentals with the vegetables. Plus, I do a lot of edible flowers. So, not all plants like that rich environment like you get from growing the regular vegetables. So you can control their feeding and what they need. I do a lot of morning glories that climb. They're notorious for they don't like rich soil at all.
They don't?
No, and they don't like water. Once they get going, they're fine. You just ignore them. And they just, you know, it's just beautiful what they present you with, you know, as they climb over the fences. Over here I have a small herb garden, and the flowering plant there is sage, just common garden sage. I grow it for one reason, Thanksgiving.
No kidding.
So I got a little fresh sage. Now, I'll probably collect all the seed off this one. Everything that I grow out here, or 99.9%, are all heirlooms. So, provided that they're sufficient space away from other like species, I can save the seed.
Good.
Good example is beans. I have all kinds of different beans in here. Beans won't cross normally. Okay, even if they're a foot apart, they won't cross.
Okay.
Tomatoes, if they're 3 to 5 foot apart, they won't cross. Squash, if it's the same genus, if you're a mile away, it'll cross. Spinach, if you're quarter mile away, it'll cross.
What happens when it crosses?
What normally happens is most of these heirlooms came from different other heirlooms that crossed naturally.
Okay.
If they cross, you'll get something different. It might be totally different than why you're growing the thing in the first place.
You mean like a spinach tomato?
Well, it could be a spinach that's tough, or a spinach that doesn't taste good. You know?
Oh, okay.
So it could affect one of the positive characteristics
I
of
hear
it.
you.
It's not great. Now, if a lot of times, if it was purposely crossed before it became an heirloom, even though it produces seeds, it will revert back to one of the parents. So if you had a tomato that you crossed with another tomato, and one of those both of them weren't great tasting or whatever, but when you crossed it, they became great tasting. It'll go back to one of those not so great tasting.
How interesting.
So you need to know a little bit about genetics. Not a lot.
But the normal everyday urban gardener who doesn't have 1,100 square feet of growing space, one of the things that really impressed me about Don's garden was the fact that he has wide aisles, was the fact that this could very well be an adaptable garden. You could get a wheelchair down here. It would depend on how much flexibility you had. As we go along, Don's going to explain more about his vertical growing methods. But what I liked especially was people with issues, with physical issues, not necessarily handicapped, but handicapped. This is a very adaptable way of gardening. And you might say, oh my God, I only have, I don't know how many square feet, 10 square feet or 20 square feet.
10 by 10.
10 by 10.
Feet,
you could take two of his tomato plants, two of his beans, and downsize what you're going to do in your own yard, your own plot, and this way you're going to have fresh fruit and vegetables rather, and you're going to be providing something very healthy for your family that you in fact grew. And I think as people get into it, like you say, you got to know about genetics and this and that. I think as once people see that it's not that difficult to master, I think they would be more inclined to branch out in what they grow. Correct?
Yeah. Well, another thing is I treat June 1st as the rookie day. Most rookies I know who are just getting into...
What you saying here?
Nothing personal. Who are just getting into gardening, they almost always abandon what they're doing by June 1st. And the simple reason is they don't understand how to control grassy weeds. And they've spent every 2 weeks weeding their garden, their little patch, and they just get tired of weeding it because the grassy weeds come back. You have to understand that if you don't get the whole underground stem of grassy weed, it's going to grow again.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So there are methodologies that I'm working on and I've worked on in the past on how to suppress those weeds.
Natural methods.
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
absolutely.
Of course. Yeah, cool.
But
That's
there's always ways you can do it. It's just a matter of finding them out, or as I call it, wading through the BS, because there's so much information out there. You really need to talk to someone who's actually had their fingers in dirt and did it or see it.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
Some people are under the impression like if I don't get my plants in the ground by X date, then I'm just not going to be able to garden. And last time we were here was probably 2 weeks ago, when a lot of the plants that you're going to see today that are much larger were like little seedlet, little things, little plantlets.
Well, and I think I let you know last time I had some failures on my tomato starts, because normally you'll start tomatoes inside or buy them from your local garden center or whatever. Well, I grow specific ones, so you couldn't even find them in the garden center. Okay, I grow about 30 different varieties. Well, I have seed that I've collected from all those. So what I did, wherever I had a failure, I had planted these right after you were here last time, and they weren't even coming up. And now I'll show you how big they are.
Okay.
So I planted my tomatoes directly in the ground this year, and what I'll do is give them a little bit more attention, and they'll catch up in no time. So it'll be just like I put them from regular size store-bought or inside started tomatoes.
Now, when you say you give them a little more attention, what do you mean exactly?
What I'll do is I'll do some foliar feeds.
Okay.
Okay. And then I'll also make sure that there's no weed competition. So whatever's there, they get.
Okay.
I'll also water them when we have dry periods, so they'll have that little extra water to grow until they start setting buds. Okay. Now what we do in our garden is some of the heirlooms are notorious for not producing a lot of fruit. Okay, you might throw one plant in there and get 4 to 6 tomatoes on that plant. Well, there's a little methodology that you can double the amount of fruit production.
Well, tell us how.
When they're the first tomato you see in the garden, when it's going to bud, so it's just about ready for a flower to open, you mix 2 teaspoons of Epsom salt with 4 ounces of water, and you spray the plants with that. So you give it a foliar feed. So you spray it on top and then on the bottom until you're gone. Usually I'll do a hose end sprayer, not a hose end sprayer, but a hand sprayer. And then whatever my water amount is, I'll do 2 teaspoons per 4 ounces of water in there. And then I'll just spray them all until it's empty.
Cool.
So what you do is you do that once that bud comes out, and then 10 days later you do it again, and you'll get double the amount of buds. So
Does it work that way for flowers? In my container garden?
On some of them, okay.
Geraniums?
Roses.
Okay.
That'll work on roses. That'll also work on peppers.
Okay.
Which, let me show you the smallest peppers you've ever seen in a garden in the middle of June. Okay, almost the end of June.
Okay.
And these guys will produce. I just put them in the other day. See those guys right there? Those little itty bitty yellowish guys.
These?
Those guys, and then that guy.
See this, Mikey? Look at that.
Yeah.
And these little.
That single one there is a
This
Jimmy
one.
Nardello. It'll have it's an Italian frying pepper that they grow in Chicago all the time.
Ooh.
And that thing will have 10-inch long fruit.
Whew.
And then these other guys are red Mortigue. Mortiga, that's it. And they will melt your face. Okay?
Seriously?
Seriously, they're that hot. The other thing, while I was going through here and weeding this area the other day, I found I had a thyme plant.
This?
Yeah, from last year. And here,
Watch where you step.
I know where I'm stepping,
I
believe
know.
it. Crush that up and smell it.
Oh, not eat it?
No,
Crush it like Nona would crush it,
Yep.
like this?
and then just smell.
Wow.
Thyme.
Boy, I'd love my house to smell like that.
Yeah, now here's another one.
Smell. Smell it. Smells almost incensey, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now this is.
Ooh. Can
this
I
is-
eat it?
Yeah, you can if you want. This is oregano. Crush that one.
Thyme one tastes great. Wow.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, hang on. Sniff this one. Smell anything?
Good stuff, huh? Very strong. Now, as long as we're here, you don't need to move, but you got one more you want to smell.
Mmm. Strong.
Okay, crush that one.
I have to clear my fingers palate.
Crush that one. Smell it. That's Thanksgiving. Turkey.
No kidding.
Turkey stuffing.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So while we're here, this is what I use to. Without this, I wouldn't be able to garden in here. This is what brings me down to the level when I need to kneel down and get down. This I built out of a old walker.
I see.
I kneel. Got my little trowel I need to use. I also have an English hand hoe, which I can reach out.
Okay.
So I'll just put my beds there. I'll either pick things by hand. I can lean down. I can put my hands down. You know, I could just do all this. I could have a bucket next to me. Invaluable tool. But the biggest thing is I can't get up because I have an abdominal hernia and I have really bad legs and knees and all that. But there you go.
Awesome.
So this tool is invaluable.
Awesome.
I found a little apron with some pockets to put in there. So and you know I taped the pad on, and plus it's all aluminum, so it doesn't weigh that much. Plus it has little solid floats, so I'm really not a lot of contact with the soil, and then the middle doesn't make any contact with the soil. So it's a 1/4 inch aluminum. But as far as how heavy it could be, but the reason I found this is there's all kinds of kneelers and stuff, but I'm not a light guy. I would break them in no time. So this is great for that. I also use I use a lot of hand tools with longer handles, so I don't have to go down and do weeding and stuff.
So this would be good for people if they were wheelchair bound or something like
Well,
that.
if they had any kind of problem with going down, someone who's older or whatever,
Yeah.
it just helps them. You know, as long as they can kneel, you could probably even put a softer pad on it.
Sure.
But you know, it does. The big thing is having a trowel for grassy weeds, or having the English hand hoe to reach. You know, you don't have to move it as often. So
English hand hoe sounds kind of
yeah, I'll have to show it.
X-rated.
It sounds that way, but I'm notorious
You
for.
English hand hoe, you.
No.
Kidding.
Hey, for $2.
Kidding.
One of the things I've always been notorious for is I break tools. I'm sorry, I work them out until they break. Okay, and that English hand hoe and the Japanese saw are the only two tools that have been in my repertoire forever.
Are you
So I haven't been able to break them yet.
Oh, that's good.
So it shows how well they're made. Also, one thing we didn't see is there's a thyme plant right there also. I'm sorry, not thyme, but it's rosemary.
Oh, gimme.
And apparently, sniffing rosemary increases your. Here I go. It
Increases your what?
increases your brain power.
Oh, please, grow me some.
Yep. It's a real hard one to get started.
Is it?
Yeah. I've got a couple of rows of that. We'll see if anything comes of it. Once again, it's just a difficult one. What we have here is this is a buyer beware plant, because these I got over Amazon, and they're asparagus, and they sold them as New Jersey giant asparagus, which are all males. Well, these are females. They got seeds.
How do you, oh, I was just going to say, how do you know they're females?
These are seeds. So the males, let me show you the males. You can see the difference here. Hold on.
Guess what? It tastes like asparagus.
Yeah.
Eat one of the pods.
Well, I don't know if they're poisonous.
Oh, now you tell me. If I keel over halfway through this
here's
tape.
a male.
Show us. So
Yeah.
these are females.
Those are females with the seeds. So I know they're not New Jersey giants. Yep. You see this, Mike?
Did you get a close-up of the with the buds, the little balls?
I was.
All right. So this is the male plant.
Son of a gun, huh?
So they should all been like this.
Who would ever
if
thought?
they actually sold me actual New Jersey giant. But I always thought plant people were pretty straight shooters, but apparently there's crooks everywhere.
Everywhere, baby. Everywhere.
Now,
Son of a gun, I never knew there was a male and a female asparagus.
you see,
Which one is going to produce the spears?
well, the seeds will grow into spears. Okay,
Those little
you
balls?
normally plant roots. You can see those coming up right there.
Yeah, these are roots.
The roots are underneath, so you plant the roots in the ground.
Okay.
That's how you normally buy them.
Okay.
It takes too long to grow them from seed, although now that I have all that seed, I might just try that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this what I have here is I have a inner crop. What you don't see, and let's see if I could point one out because they're almost all gone. Here we go.